Donna, you became one of the ultimate symbols of the 90s through Baywatch. When you look back today, did you realize at the time that the show would become such a global phenomenon and pop culture history?
I joined Baywatch Nights first, and then they rolled me over onto the main Baywatch show.
Hi, I'm Miss Buchanan.
And it was already huge. Pamela Anderson was huge at the time, you know, David Hasselhoff was huge. But it did continue to grow, and I was not prepared because I had come from a little town in the South, and I didn't know it was going to be instant overnight fame like that.
Back up Tower 15.
And they said, the only thing we need to know from you is, can you swim? You can swim, right? And I said, yes, I can swim. Of course I can swim. And I couldn't swim. They called my manager back and they said, we really want her. She can't swim. She lied about being able to swim, but we're willing to put her through swim lessons to learn how to swim to be on the show. And I was like, thank God. So they had me take swim lessons 5 mornings a week for, I think it was 2 months.
Yep, I'm gonna be a lifeguard.
What was the atmosphere really like behind the scenes on Baywatch? You worked closely with David Hasselhoff during the peak of the show. What made him such a strong leader and face of the franchise behind the cameras?
David had this way about him that everybody liked him. He was very likable. And whenever there was tension on the set, because there was, I don't know, maybe a very serious scene or something like that, he would always do a joke. You know, he would go, Kit, you know, whatever. He would do some kind of Knight Rider joke and lighten the mood, and everybody really appreciated it. But at the same time, he was a very strong leader. He knew that what his role was on the show as, you know, as sort of the head of it, and he took it very seriously. He knew he had a big responsibility.
They're sleek, sexy, and ready for action. They're the hot new line of lifeguards, and they're only available on Baywatch.
Your image on Baywatch, as well as Pamela Anderson's, became iconic worldwide. What do you remember most about Pamela during these years before social media and before celebrity culture became what it is today?
Pam was always very sweet. She was always very on time and very, very generous as an actor. She never tried to, you know, hog the spotlight or anything like that. She was very giving, very sweet, a very genuine person. Like you said, this was before social media. It was a very different time. So this was back when there was sort of a certain distance when it came to fame that really today doesn't exist.
There's a new reboot of Baywatch in development starring Stephen Amell. And what's fascinating is that many social media influencers are reportedly part of the main cast. That's something we've never really seen before in such a major reboot. What was your first reaction when you heard about this new direction?
Listen, every generation approaches things differently. And so it seems right that they are handling casting in a way that goes hand in hand with kind of what's popular now, which is social media and influencers. And listen, you know, I didn't come into Baywatch with any kind of great acting skills, so I understand how that happens. But at the same time, I know how much work goes into becoming a real actor, because I had to do that work myself afterward. You know, in the end, it's going to show on screen.
Welcome to Mythbound. I'm your host, Donna. This is a channel where I explore the greatest legends and mysteries of the world.
Mythbound explores legends, unexplained mysteries, Area 51, Sasquatch territory, and paranormal stories. What attracted you to this project?
What attracted me to Mythbound and to exploring these myths and legends and the unexplained is I've had this fascination since I was a child. And a long time ago, I think it was a little more taboo to say things like, I believe Bigfoot exists, or I saw a UFO. Now it's not so much like that. I think it's not as taboo a subject anymore, and you're not looked at like you're crazy if you say, I believe in UFOs, or I saw something, or I saw Bigfoot. And so, you know, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I'm acting. I wrote a feature that I'm going to be directing. And that, I think Mythbound is just another way of telling stories. And it's a more real way that's more experiential, that sort of is taking people along with me to explore these things.
Do you really believe Bigfoot exists or existed in the past?
I definitely believe Bigfoot exists.
Where?
It's funny, a lot of people think that there's just one Bigfoot, but it's not. It's, you know, it's supposedly, I'm open-minded. I don't know for a fact that it exists, but I believe it could exist. That it's like a species out there that hasn't been discovered. You know, they discover new species all the time. They thought that the coelacanth was expired for a long, long time, and then suddenly fishermen pull up a coelacanth in their net when they're fishing. And here it is, this prehistoric creature that they thought was extinct for 1 million years in their net, unchanged.
Your new series explores Area 51. Are you visiting Area 51?
I wish I could actually physically visit Area 51, but I think I would be shot. I'm going to go there. My plan is later this month to go as close as I am legally allowed to get to Area 51.
There are so many stories about hidden spacecrafts and secret labs. What do you believe is happening there?
You know, I have listened to a lot of Bob Lazar interviews over the years.
This particular disc appeared to be in excellent condition, and because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport Model.
And to me, he's very credible. People used to not believe him back in the day, but I think it's a little bit of a different atmosphere now, and especially with these high military officials that have testified before Congress about, you know, what they've seen in a very serious way. I think people are taking it a lot more seriously now, and I think that there is something there.
When I was just a little kid, I remember developing a real curiosity about the sky at night and what's happening up there.
People have a right to know the truth.
And also not the possibility, but the guarantee that there is life off this planet.
Steven Spielberg recently said his new UFO film Disclosure Day feels closer to truth than fiction. What was your reaction hearing Spielberg speak so openly about this subject?
Well, I think when someone like Steven Spielberg talks about something, people pay attention. But I think the bottom line is people are more open-minded now to believing things exist and not making fun of people who say they've seen something.
You told me before we started the interview that you are not a UFO believer, although you have experienced something very weird. Would you like to share this story with us?
I have never shared this story before publicly. A long time ago when I was living in Agora Hills, I was on a 40-acre piece of property, and there was a 1-mile driveway that went to that property. So we never heard any kind of passing vehicles or any road noise. And one night I was washing dishes at the sink, and I heard this rumble, is the only way I can describe it, a very low rumble that sounded kind of like maybe there was a motorcycle in the distance coming up the driveway, but I wasn't expecting anyone. So I sent my son out, he was around 10 at the time, and I said, Ryan, go see who that is coming up the driveway. So he went out there, and I continued washing dishes, and then I just hear, Mom. So I looked out the window, and he's standing in the driveway with his head straight up like that. And I was like, right, what's going on? And he's like, come out here. So I walked out there, I walked up to him, and his head's still looking up. So I looked up, and we lived in a 6,500 square foot home. It was big, but this thing that was in the sky was twice the width of the house. And it was, I'd say it was maybe 50 feet over the roof of the house. It was very low. And it was massive. It was just this massive, dark object that I couldn't figure out how it was remaining airborne because it was going so slow. And it was silent except for just this very low kind of a rumbly hum. I don't know how to explain it. There were little lights, and I just remember looking at it and being unable to say anything or move. And we both just stood there with our heads up looking at it until it went to the horizon and turned into a light. And then that light split in two and went in different directions. And then we snapped out of it and we were able to talk to each other. And,
Did you manage to sleep after that?
I lost a little sleep for about a week, but I just don't, I still to this day, I don't know what that was.
Now we're going to meet up with the local Sasquatch expert, Kenny Collins.
Can you sing for us, Jackie?
What has surprised you most about the people and stories you've encountered while filming?
Probably how serious they are about what they've experienced. There was a woman who, I went to Lake Erie, and supposedly there's some kind of a Loch Ness Monster type creature in Lake Erie as well. I flew there, I met with her. She took me to the exact spot where she saw what she saw, and she described what she saw, and it's a very serious thing. She saw the head and body and then this sort of wake that was moving along with it at a fast speed, and then it disappeared. So, when people are affected for the rest of their life by something, I don't discount that. I think that they saw something.
Well, we may not have found any ghosts, but that doesn't mean the Stanley's not haunted. And you know something strange about the Stanley? I feel like I never left.
What keeps you feeling motivated, grounded, and creatively inspired at this stage of your career?
Curiosity, staying curious. To me, it's how you live your life. If you stay active and you stay curious about things and you stay excited about life and you cut toxic people out of your life and you try to just live in peace, to me, that's what life is all about. And to me, that's why I feel so great.
And if you were to share your wisdom about being so many years in the star system of Hollywood, what would you like to say to the people, to the content creators or aspiring actors that they wish to have a career, a long-lasting career like yours?
Oh goodness, that's a really good question. I guess I hate giving advice, but if I had to give advice, what works for me is just to go with what you're passionate about. Because people can smell fakeness from a mile away. And if you're doing something that you love and that you're really passionate about and you really believe in, it shows. And people want to be around that. And it's sort of like magnetic.
Well, that's it for today. But this story's far from over.
Cosmote TV viewers, please make sure that you watch Mythbound, and thank you so much for having me on. This has been awesome.